book lovers, Victoria here and watching My Books Me. And today I just wanted to share with you guys some non-fiction books that I really want to read, and hopefully I can get around to reading or starting or reading bits of this year. Now I own quite a few non-fiction books. I think I have about 50 to 75, 80 maybe. I have quite a lot, mainly history based, although there's some like biographies and autobiographies thrown in as well. But mainly history related because that's where my passion lies, and they're all books about subject matters that I really like and that I do eventually want to read. I'm just terrible at actually picking the book up and reading it. Like obviously it's so much easier to pick up a fiction book and read it rather than being like, oh yes, today I want to actually learn something and pick up this book. The good thing about a lot of non-fiction is you can just pick it up and read bits and pieces rather than reading it from cover to cover, but there's definitely some books that I do want to read cover to cover. A lot I have that I'm like, I'm probably never going to read cover to cover. I probably will read bits of it here and there. But I thought I would share with you 5 that I just really want to read, that I sort of keep thinking about but just never get around to picking up, and hopefully I can read some of them this year. So the first one is Queen Victoria, Queen Matriarch Empress by Jane Ridley. This is from the Penguin and Monarchs series, which is such a beautiful collection that I really need to keep buying books of. So this is like really a condensed version of Queen Victoria's story, and I think it's a great place to start. Queen Victoria is definitely one of my favourite monarchs. She's definitely not my favourite, but she is one that is so interesting because she's like our second longest reigning monarch. So much happened during her reign. She is literally the grandmother of Europe. You know, so much is connected to Victoria that I just definitely want to read it. And after having started watching the series Victoria, I really want to read it because it is so interesting. Her life and everything that she went through, and just everything about Victoria is so interesting that I really want to read it, and I feel like this is probably a really great place to start. There are a number of other Victoria books that I really want to get, but I probably should wait until I've at least started this one before I go out buying more. Speaking of royals, another one that I've got quite a lot of royal books, but this is definitely one I want to read because it's a newer book that I got. And it sounds interesting, and it's about a historical figure that I don't know much about, but she's quite an interesting person in history, and that is Crown of Blood, The Deadly Inheritance of Lady Jane Grey by Nicola Tallis. And this is about Lady Jane Grey, who was the 9-day Queen of England between Edward the 6th and Mary the 1st. Edward made his cousin queen over his sister, and she was barely on the throne before Mary came riding into town and was like, nope, go to the Tower. I don't really know too much about her. She's also a figure in history that is kind of overlooked by a lot of people. Some people just ignore the fact that she was, you know, had a claim to the throne. Other people do actually include her when they're talking about the monarchs of England and Britain and all that. But for a lot of parts, she's kind of forgotten. She's this person in history that people overlook because she wasn't really around for that long. You know, she did have an important role within the Tudor dynasty, but like compared to the other Tudor monarchs and the rest of the monarchs throughout history, she's a very, very small part of that, so she kind of gets overlooked. This book sounds really good, and it's also got pretty great reviews, and as I said, Jane Grey is just a character in history that I really want to know more about. I love the Tudor dynasty, but she's the monarch of the Tudor dynasty that I know the least about, and I feel like this will be a really great book. And it's blurbed by Alison Weir, who is a really great historian and Tudor historian, so I feel like this should be a good read. Going further back in time now, another one is The Histories by Herodotus. Now I want to say I read quite a lot of this back in high school. Not really. Herodotus played an important role in a lot of the topics I studied in high school in history. Herodotus played an important role in the history I learnt in high school. The time periods that we looked at, Herodotus had written quite a lot about, and although he is a very biased historian, he's also like a really important historian in history. And from what I've read of his histories, like the chunks of quotes I read, he's quite also a really good writer. Like considering his writing back in the BCs, I think it was, yeah, 5th century BC, like it's writing that you can still very much understand today. It's not like out there and you have to decipher it. It's still pretty easy to understand and read, which I think is great. And like from the bits I've read, I'm so interested in actually sitting down and reading more of it. I feel like maybe I wouldn't read this one cover to cover. I'd probably pick bits out here and there on the different things that he talks about, but I feel like eventually I could have read the whole thing. But I definitely want to just sit down, start somewhere, maybe at the beginning, and read it. because I think, yeah, he's just generally a really great historian to read about, especially if you are into Greek history. And I really love Greek history and the time period that he writes about, and because I've already studied it in the past, that's like my interest is really piqued. So I really hope that I can start on this at some point. Coming back now, I probably should have done this because they're all history books. I should have done these like order, but the next one is Ben Hall by, I think it's Frank Clune. Ben Hall by Frank Clune. Now this is kind of borderline non-fiction. This is actually more of a fictional book, but based heavily on history, based heavily on the story of Ben Hall, the bushranger Ben Hall, who is probably my favourite bushranger after Ned Kelly. Well, no, he's probably my favourite bushranger over Ned Kelly. He just has a really interesting, like the things he did is really interesting. He never actually killed anyone, which is also interesting. Like he's been portrayed as this, you know, evil bushranger, but you know, he didn't actually kill anyone. And like that's just the story of Ben Hall is kind of sad in a way. I don't know, but he's a bushranger that I really want to read more about. This is, as I said, this is very borderline non-fiction. It's more of a fictional stuff based on one of the TV series or the movies they did about Ben Hall. I'm including it anyway just because it is based heavily off history. It does have that element to it, and I feel like even though it is fictionalized, I still feel like it's very non-fiction. I don't know. It's a weird inclusion, but it's one that I really want to read. The final book is 13 Days by Robert F. Kennedy. This is Bobby Kennedy, JFK's brother, and this is all about the Cuban Missile Crisis, which JFK, I'm so fascinated with JFK, not only because of his assassination, but that's obviously a really big draw card, but just because of everything he did during his presidency and all like the controversy and the issues surrounding his presidency, the Cuban Missile Crisis being one of them. I've studied it quite heavily, probably not as heavily as some people, but have studied it quite a bit, and it's so interesting, and I feel like this should be a really great read because it is actually from someone who was involved. I have heard that obviously he has glossed over certain things that happened behind closed doors, but it's still his personal recount of those 13 days where where America sat on the brink of nuclear war. It was a very dangerous and really like anxious time for Americans, and especially those in the White House. So I'm really excited to read this one. I wanted to get it for so long. When I finally got it, I was like, yes, I'm gonna read it. It's not even that long, so I feel like this is definitely a book I can read this year compared to the rest of them. But yeah, I'm hoping this will be a really good read. So there are 5 non-fiction, specifically history books that I really want to read this year. I feel like I probably could. I just kind of need to get in that mindset to actually pick up one of these books. As I said, it's so much easier to actually pick up a fictional book and be like, yes, I'm in the mood for romance, or yes, I'm in the mood for fantasy. But it's so much easier to say that than I'm in the mood to learn about, you know, Ben Hall kind of thing. But there are books that I really want to read. They're ones that, when I look at all of my non-fiction books, they're the ones I kind of put my eye on more. So fingers crossed I can have started one of these or read one of these or a couple of these by the end of the year. Still plenty of time, and I definitely feel like it could be possible. Who knows? Let me know in the comments below some non-fiction books that you really want to read. If you've read any of these ones, let me know. And just generally let me know your thoughts on reading non-fiction. Is it something that you want to do more of? Is it something that you already do quite a lot of? Let me know. Let's just chat in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next week with another one. Bye!